Good morning and welcome to Mental Health Matters with me, Dr. Audrey Tang. My co-host is Judith Crosier and our special guest today has been on the show before. It is Susan Popoola. She is a consultant, an author and the founder of A Mosaic World, and it's always a pleasure to chat with her. Today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that's gaining a lot more significance of late, AI. And to get us reflecting on it, I'd like to hand you over to one of our resident experts, Martina Kornett of International Dancing Minds, to give you her thoughts. Over to you, Martina.
Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence and the effect of technology. Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it a bit of both? My initial reaction is I'm a humanist, I'm an artist and possibly a bit of a control freak. Hence, I am very suspicious of artificial intelligence, which in the worst case scenario may one day be uncontrollable for us, right? It may just beat us to it and may end up being way more intelligent than any of us. However, many of us already cannot imagine a life without Alexa or Google Assistant to manage their lives and be more efficient. AI is already helping industries like financial services, healthcare providers, improving customer service experiences, and of course saving businesses money. Scheduling emails, appointments, providing us with more information. Of course, there are pros and cons of AI and how it may change our lives and world, and how much of it are we as humans actually comfortable with.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. It's such a pleasure to have you here, as always, Susan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me once more.
It's brilliant to chat with you, and it's a very interesting topic.
It really is. We've had a discussion before the show, haven't we? And we've got differing opinions. So how does AI impact your work? And what are some of the issues maybe that you've seen?
I would say in many ways more positive than not. Because I can look at it from different angles. I can look at it from my personal work, the work I do. So the work I do around leadership, the work I do around young people, the work I do writing. Mm-hmm. I can also talk about people I work with and what I see more widely. So I guess there are three different dimensions that I can talk to. Not coming so much as an expert, but as a user who is increasingly seeing the value that it brings, whilst having an awareness that there are concerns as well.
Okay.
So for me, I see AI, the truth is we've been using AI from the eons of time. It's just that we haven't used that terminology. If you think of predictive text, for instance, the things that we dictate, the research that we do online, just like with Google, there's AI fitted into that, together with gadgets and that we use at home, Alexa and whatever else we use. So we all use it, whether you were using it consciously or not. What I have increasingly started doing is I've increasingly started using AI as an assistant.
Okay.
Now, I started off and I looked and I see people using AI, and I'd find at times you'd see someone's written something and actually you can immediately think that's not you.
Yes.
And so that there are people that use it in that way, which you could say is less ethical and less, well, who are you and who am I engaging with if I work with you using AI? So you observe that people use it, and sometimes they're little giveaways, like someone, aside from the fact that it doesn't come across as in the person's normal voice, though the truth is some people will have other people doing their copywriting for them anyway, but it's more, you're more aware of it when they use AI. Because, for instance, from a British perspective, you might notice American language and people haven't cross-checked and things like that. And so there are little giveaways and things. And so there's that I've observed where people don't use it appropriately. And then you become more skeptical because in work, just as in our personal lives, we relate and we connect with people that we know, we like, and we can trust. And if we don't, if the person communicating with us doesn't seem like the person we know, then who are you? How do I trust you? Now I'm increasingly using it, but I don't use it like that. As I said, I use it as an assistant. I'm known as a thought leader, and so my original thinking is important to me. So typically one of the ways that I will use it is I've come up with an idea, I've come up with a thought, I might have some bullet points or some thinking, I might share it with ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, whichever one I decide to use, and say, what do you think? And get some feedback. Do you think I've missed any crucial points? Get some feedback. I have dyslexic tendencies whereby I don't always get my spelling right. So I can use it to correct my spelling, which is important to some people when you're sending things to them. And I could go on and on in terms of the little ways in which I use it to review, to text, to possibly provide a draft. But the key is, however I use it, I will always do a review. And I will update. So it's always me, but with an input from elsewhere, just as if I had an assistant or an associate sitting in an office with me and I said, what do you think of that? And so that's one of the key ways in which it's impacting my work. And that means that a lot of the time I'm able to do things faster. I at times have a greater depth and also sometimes a greater confidence because I've had feedback as well on what I'm doing. So in very broad terms, I guess that gives some insight into how I use it.
Yeah, so you use it quite broadly and in different ways for good reasons. So have you got any examples of where there's been issues where you've seen somebody using AI and there might have been some, apart from the obvious kind of language issue?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are those people that you see them using it and it doesn't read as them.
Yeah.
There is also a case, a legal case, whereby lawyers went to court and presented information which they'd used AI to create, and they presented it, and I think the judge picked up the inaccuracies in it and ultimately worked out actually what they had done, and it was chucked out with a good ticking off.
Yes.
So that's people using it and leaving their brains behind. So I mean, it's using it lazily and basically leaving their brains behind.
Maybe not the most appropriate way of its use, or not checking afterwards.
Yeah, because you can use it, as I said, and key to how I would use it. I've got a case. I mean, and I do it all the time, just basic research. We all do it with Google, whereby we Google a person or we're trying to find out something, and we just do a Google search. I use ChatGPT or Perplexity, there's another one, we talk about ChatGPT a lot. One that I like, Perplexity, is great because it gives you references. So there would have been nothing wrong with them using it to do some research, and especially using something like Perplexity or using ChatGPT and asking for references, but then reviewing the information properly. Because you've been to school and you've gathered knowledge, and this is something you're going to present, so you should be able to have reviewed it to have confidence in it, so that if you're asked questions, you're readily able to respond and take ownership.
Yeah, of course.
And that's why I talk of it as being an assistant. But in any case, no matter how capable your assistant is, you still have to have ownership. And that means you have to review what you're presented with and update it to make sure that, yes, I can stand by this information.
I think you brought up two things. I know where my biases are with AI. I don't like it, but I do have reasons for this. The first one is I fully understand the assistance, but my concern is when people get lazy. It's not even I'm choosing to be unethical, but actually, I'll just let AI do that. I'll just let it. And in the same way as I can no longer remember other people's phone numbers because I've let my phone do it, I'm losing that part of my brain. And some people who don't even try, they're not even creating or using or exercising that bit of their brain, which could actually be really exciting. I cite the Willy Wonka disaster, which happened in Scotland, where they just went to AI to put in all of these images and create this poster, and it was nothing like the actual event. It's things like that that concern me.
And I think there's a need to distinguish between people, dare I say, like myself, and there are many people like myself that use it as an assistant and work in partnership with it, so to speak. And people that think this is a solution.
Yes, I think that's a nice way of putting it.
And the not so nice way of putting it is leaving your brain behind. And just because the reality is, okay, I have a concept. I might want to use AI to create that concept. Great, there's nothing wrong with that. Because in another situation, I would get a graphic designer and I would say, this is concept, this is what I want to create. And then get them to create something. You can use AI to create something, but then you've got to make sure that it represents the reality and that it's something you can deliver.
That brings me to the other point, though, which is, yes, AI is now taking the place of the graphic designer. It's taking the place of the assistant. It's taking the place of the writer. It's taking the place of certain jobs now.
Is it? Or, because it can take the place of certain jobs, or it can change the roles or how those people work. So I, as a graphic designer, I'm not, but if I was a graphic designer, then I would probably be using AI in some of my work. So I say that anyone could present it with a concept and say, can you create this? But there's a skill to get the best results, because you need to be able to know the right questions to ask. And you get the better results on the basis of the questions you ask, because it's very easy to say, give me a concept. I'm trying to think of a concept or something that you want to create. So and I'm lost for one at the moment. But
I'll give you one I have to do, actually, which is create a poster of the work of a parish council.
Okay, so you want to create, and so you could just say, give me the poster of the work of a parish council, and it will come up with its own ideas, which will not be representative of, it might be reflective of what could be, but
it won't be
what you want. So you have to know the additional questions to ask to give a full picture of what you want. And then when it presents you with something, you need to know the follow-on questions to ask to refine the information. There's skill in that, isn't there?
There is. At the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why wouldn't I just start from scratch myself and put it together myself? But to be fair, I've never used AI in that way, so I've never given it a chance.
Well, we're going to go to a break, but we are going to come back to this. So we will be back right after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network, here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. We are talking about AI and how to use it and how to use it well and so on. And I mean, I like your point about checking things and sometimes being inspired by something that no one has thought of before. And that is something that AI is able to do. But then let's pull at the ethical thread a bit more. This is now no longer talking about somebody who is just being lazy and wanting to do it. Actually deep faking things, actually superimposing someone's face onto something else to endorse something. That is going beyond, I think, the even slightly lazy use of AI.
That's unethical, full stop.
It is, yeah.
I mean, that's unethical. I mean, what more do you say to that?
So
it's unethical. People do it, and you see some videos, and you think, is this really the person? And laziness does come to play as well, not necessarily from the person creating, but from people observing. And not just laziness, the need to look carefully, the need to be a critical thinker, the need to not just take things on face value. There is an example that I saw of a video where they have Donald Trump and Kamala Harris together, and ultimately they're like a couple. I mean, anyone will know that this isn't reflective of reality when she gets pregnant by him. So you know that's not reflective of reality. But with anything that you see, the key is it's always been, and even not just with AI, and now more than ever, there's a need to stop and say, is this what this person would do? The voice, because you can use a voice whereby it sounds like the person, but does this sound like what the person? So it might look like the person, it might sound like the person. Look for telltale signs like the lips, how are the lips moving, and things like that. And also, does this sound like what the person would say, or what the person would do? And do additional research. So don't take things on face value, but look deeper as well.
And I think that relates really nicely to the next point, which is just quite a quick one. It's what we teach AI as much as anything else, because there have been times where AI has given just reinforced stereotypes. And if we haven't sat there to question it, in a way, it's just validated some of our negative or problematic thinking.
Yeah, I mean, there's that side of it. There's also whereby there was a time whereby it wouldn't recognise like a black hand or different things like that. But when I first started playing with AI, I was aware of those stereotypes and things like that. And so I took a responsibility, as I believe everyone that doesn't fit the stereotype norm needs to do, of asking questions.
Yeah.
So it presents something in a stereotype norm and possibly says from a masculine gendered perspective, and I'm like, what about women? And I ask it questions, and it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and I'll take note of this for the future. And so I took that responsibility of constantly. So so the more of us engage with it, and the more of us from different backgrounds and different experiences engage and ask it questions, the more it will be reflective of the world that we really and truly live in.
Love it.
So that's how we can make the world more inclusive of AI and incorporate AI better then, and less stereotypical by questioning.
By questioning it, by engaging it. And so that's why I would encourage everyone to play with it, even if you don't make it a crucial part of your day-to-day living or a crucial part of your business. I believe there's some value in using it a bit, but at least play with it and challenge it nicely. I always say please and thank you, but challenge
I do to Alexa, to be fair.
To Alexa as well.
Yeah, because we want it to develop good manners in terms of the way it engages. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. So almost you're saying that we've all got a responsibility, even if we don't really use it. So
if we don't like it, it's our problem.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
exactly. To interact more, to make it better.
Yeah,
That's quite an interesting way of thinking about it.
It's like most things in the world. If we see things and we don't like them, we can complain about them, and our concerns may be valid. But the key is, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to get involved and change things?
Yeah, no, it is a good point. I'll take it on board.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Thank you. So in terms of, you touched on it before about potentially is it a threat to our jobs? The actors went on strike because they perceived that it would take away a lot of their jobs. Do you think that that's the case? And conversely, how could it enhance the workplace?
Yeah, so there are obviously threats to some jobs, very black and white terms. With other jobs, it would change jobs, enhance jobs. So, I mean, I can remember working with a science organisation, and they introduced robots that do some of the mundane things. And the key is, it's how it's used to take away the mundane things, the difficult things, the things that we might find challenging. There's how AI has been used in the medical field to do diagnosis, which actually a human being might not have picked up, even with years and years of experience. It's not taking away that person's job, but it's enhancing it. It can affect the role of a copywriter, for instance, whereby someone might decide to use AI instead of a copywriter. But it's therefore how we have an understanding of how it can change and improve things, putting the negatives aside for a minute. But even within that, there's a role that people might take in terms of how we work to combat the negatives. So it's how we can use it more effectively within roles and jobs in different environments, and how that changes the roles that we have and the skills we all need to develop so that we still can play crucial roles.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, no, Bob. Good keeping, Susan. Because this is such an interesting conversation, and I always learn so much from you, Susan. So thank you for being here. We recently, though, we were invited to the Good Times Project to have a look at their silent disco. The individual control that people have over the music that gives you a chance to play together and dance together, but with that your own individual autonomy over what you're listening to. So let's have a look at the Good Times Project.
Project is our passion project. So we've already got an events business, and what we wanted to do is the silent discos were evoking a lot of good feeling in different, like the Send community, and also when we were doing care homes, you could tell that, like, the memories it was bringing back. We thought, we're onto something. What we could do is, if we could take the hires out of the original place they were, put them into a social enterprise, we can use the funds we already have from our hires and subsidise sessions for them, to make sure that people can make it more affordable for the different groups that we're working with, and then just to keep kind of spread the joy throughout. Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. Why is it so important to have that manageability of sound, of music, that the silent disco allows you to have?
Okay, so the great thing about your silent disco is that you can change the channels. So you've got full autonomy on the channels. You have the 3 channels that you can choose. You've got your volume control. You can turn it off if you want. So you could just wear them in your ears and not hear anything. It'd just be a bit of silence. Wear them around your neck. The autonomy and the fact that you can have that choice means that it's suitable for a whole range of people, and people are going to find the station they want to tune into, and you know, there's more chance of people getting something out of it and getting a nice result in terms of the wellness factor.
Yeah, no, I like that, because I hadn't realised that you had different channels, actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was a way of being able to control the volume and that sort of thing, but to be able to choose your music as well,
Yes.
that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, so that's what the great thing, especially what we've got today with our family silent disco. You have a party channel, so everyone can have fun. They can sing along to Disney, they can do the Macarena. Then you've got your retro channel, which is the kind of biggest hits from the 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties that the parents are going to really enjoy, and the kids have heard it in the car. Chart hits from the last 10 years as well, so you then have that accessibility, or that kind of it attracts the older kid that will be there. So you know, you kind of your teenager that's coming up that might think it's not too cool to do anything with their family. But actually, they've got their silent disco going. They're more likely to come along. So that, you know, so we've got that a choice for everyone, and we transcend all like the age ranges.
Yeah, you've hit on something there, because there is that thing about it not feeling cool. You know, I like this type of music, but you don't like it, therefore I feel awkward. Yeah. With this, no one knows what you're listening to. That's...
No, all they can see is you're dancing and enjoying it. So you can have 3 people on each have different channels that they're on, but they're all loving it. They're all loving whatever they're listening to. They're all dancing together, so they just are kind of bouncing off each other. One of the biggest things for us, because we do the events at the Picture Drome with adults and the family ones, is the fact that we knew that we have at our adult events, we would have an 18-year-old dancing and a 70-year-old dancing in the same room. I mean, for us now, for us, we have on New Year's Eve or any of the events, we've managed to make it so inclusive and so welcoming that we do have 18-year-olds and mid to late 70s there as well. So the age range is fantastic for us. It makes us feel great that you know, that we can bring people together, because it's unheard of in terms of, especially on a Saturday night.
Yes.
You know, and we have that ethos all the way through. So hence why when we were doing our mental health wellbeing week in May, we were able to do from ages 2 to 93. So yeah, so it was really, really good.
That's brilliant. And you not only do this at functions and events, you also hire out the silent disco?
So that's the model. So the model is the revenue generated from private hires goes towards us being able to subsidise the session. So the events that we do all come into that pot, so to speak. But also the hires, if we get corporate wellness packages that we offer as well, and then sometimes we'll have groups that will have funding for sessions, and actually what they'll do is we'll pay our normal amount, because we know that if we've got the funding for it, we can then help. So when we haven't got funding, we can come to you and we'll be able to give you a subsidised package. So in terms of for us to be able to keep doing what we're doing, it is about getting that message out, and being able to do family sessions like this only kind of makes our net grow, and we can have more and more people you know, coming to hire and then supporting, so you can have fun and also do something good.
That was such a peaceful afternoon. It was really lovely to be out in nature, walking around, taking my own time, listening to whatever music I choose. And that's really nice, because it's not the same as having to create a playlist that you have to run along to, which has to be a certain beat and so on. It's different to having to choreograph things. It really is a great way of getting more music into your day, getting the freedom of having really comfortable headphones and the control over volume, over the control over what you're listening to, or listening to nothing at all, while still being out with people and being around people. I definitely recommend the silent disco for connectivity, for a bit of music therapy, and just overall a really good time.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. It's really interesting, the discussion, because I know I started off having a very strong bias against AI. I'm not completely convinced yet, but talking to you, I do understand that actually if I don't like it, it's my responsibility to go out there and make the changes in the areas I want to change. And I think that's a very important lesson for everybody. We can't just sit there and complain about it. We've got to deal with it.
Yeah, and we have also, try it.
Yeah.
Because, try it, see what it does, see how, because I believe for everyone it can add some value in some form. And we, as I said, we're already using it subconsciously or not. Other people are using it. There is something about the possibility of being left behind if you don't. Imagine the person that when smartphones or phones came out and the person is like, oh, I don't want to use that, or I don't want to use email, or whatever the case would be, and think of how a person could still live a happy, fulfilled life, but there's also the risk of being left out and left behind when you don't have access or don't use
or
some
haven't
of
got the
these
skill.
things.
Yeah.
And then so the key is you have the skills, and when you have the skills, you decide how you're going to use it, when you're going to engage. And also, if you're using it, you have a better understanding of other people using it, and you're more aware that, okay, this is someone that has used AI for this and hasn't used it appropriately, or you have a better understanding of how other people are navigating as well.
Yeah. That's true. That's
Love
true.
it.
So talking about skills then, how do we ensure that using AI we're still continuing to think critically? Because it would be easy not to.
In many ways, it's a lot of what I've already said. So for me, you can just go to AI and say, do this, in very simple, basic terms. Ask it just to create a recipe of how to cook jollof rice. But that's a bit of but then, okay, what type of jollof rice do you want? Do you want Ghanaian jollof rice or Nigerian jollof rice, or actually the original jollof rice? So that's a superficial example, but the key is those that would use AI most effectively, that will get the best outcomes from it, are the people that are the most skillful, who know what they want and therefore know the questions to ask. So it's playing with it, it's knowing what you're trying to achieve, and then developing an understanding of how to ask the questions. It's being presented with something and knowing, is this what I actually want? And if not, it's going back and saying, can you change this, or this is not what I want? As I said, politely, just as you would with anyone else. But it's just that dialogue and that feedback, and it's also, and then being able to understand the limitations. It's starting off with the things you know, that you know well, and so when you get the responses on the basis of the things you know, then you can begin to see how accurate or how it presents those things. So then when you ask it for things, or ask it about things you know less about, you're better able to evaluate. So actually, AI used effectively means that our critical thinking is more pertinent than ever before.
Which the solicitors should have
Yes.
thought about.
Yes. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah. Well, hopefully
and
they've
even
learned.
the Willy Wonka, because it's like, okay, you've presented me with this image.
Am I able to do it?
Am I able to do it? And if I'm not able to do it, adapt it. I recently posed a question to a visual form of AI, which also generates videos, and I presented it a statement regarding a Mosaic world and the value of people. And it was interesting that I just provided it with a statement, and it created a video, and it gave its version. I didn't use it because its version didn't align to mine, because it was talking about a Mosaic world purely from the perspective of diversity. It was very good and very detailed, but it was all about just diversity. And a Mosaic world is more than just diversity.
Yeah.
It's about common values and interests and how we engage together as a whole, bringing who we are in different forms. And so, the Willy Wonka approach would be to just take that and use it. But it wouldn't be representative of my brand and what I'm about.
Yeah. I mean, that's answered my next question about how you manage that use when it does kind of give you something which you know doesn't align with you. But I guess my last critique or question mark I have is the use of AI in counselling apps. I grew up with this program called Eliza. It was an AI psychiatrist, which would ask you actually a lot of the, why do you feel that way? Oh, I understand. But my worry here is when people use apps, you can't tell where they are mentally in using that app. And that's where I struggle with it, because some people who just focus on the selling of the app kind of say, this is all right for everybody. It's really not.
No, and there's possibly a place for it, but I would say, and it's not my area of expertise, though I do work with young people, and there's a potential to bring AI into that.
Yeah.
But it's crucial that before you put anything out there, that you test and test and test and test with different scenarios. And I'll give you a brief example. It's not so much counselling, but there was one AI tool that I came across. I forget the name of it. But I started a dialogue where I spoke about how I was feeling that day. And it was very empathetic. And I thought, oh gosh, this is almost better than speaking to a human being. And then the next
sad
day,
thing for us, isn't it?
Yeah. But then the next day, I went back to it, and I misspelt something, or I did something. It started mocking me. That's how it felt to me, because it was being sarcastic. I never used that again.
I'm not surprised.
And I did feedback to the person that recommended it. So, So there was a two-stage. So again, it's that thing of, okay, you try something, can see what it does, but you make sure you test at a deep level, not just at a superficial level.
Yep.
And when you find faults like that, if it can be corrected, you correct it, and you try and test again. But if not, delete, abandon, and try something else.
Yes, very much so, very much so. Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to keep you with us because we want you to give the top tips at the end of today. We're just going to go on to Business Boost. In Business Boost, I wanted to talk about an old book that I read once when people were first concerned about the automation of things. And having had now today's discussion in mind, I think some of the salient points of that book still ring true, but that doesn't mean we should be very against all of the new developments. It's always about how we use them. And if that develops us as people, that can't be a bad thing. This is a book called Architect or Be by Mike Cooley. And the key quote from this is, "We seem to have seriously underestimated the educational, cultural, and other significance of skill and craftsmanship." And for Mike Cooley, he goes on to say, "I personally have never met an ordinary person at all in my life. All the people I meet are extraordinary. They've got all kinds of skills, abilities, talents, and never are those talents used, developed, or encouraged because we use too much automation." And the issue for him was the Taylorism of work, mass production, factory lines, and so on. However, that is certainly not to say technology hasn't made things easier. Of course it has. Everything we do right now, we are using that technology. So the question is, why are some people getting on better with it and others not? And I think a lot of that comes down to us. We need to understand with all these technological developments that they are there to make us greater. They are there to make us better. They are there to engage the parts of our ability that perhaps we never knew we would have to. So we need to use it rather than let it use us. And I think that still rings true today, because otherwise and this is his quote again, "Either we will have a future in which human beings are reduced to a sort of bee-like behaviour, reacting to the systems and equipment specified for them. Or we will have a future in which masses of people, conscious of their skills and abilities in both a political and technical sense, decide that they are going to be architects of a new form. And that will enhance human creativity and mean more freedom of choice and freedom of expression rather than less. And that's what Mike Cooley said in the 80s. It's what you're hearing today from Susan Popoola. Such a fascinating discussion. I know it's broadened my mind speaking to you, and I think the thing I'd take away from this very fully is if I don't like what I'm seeing or how people are using it, it's important for me to call it out, to tell that person, even if someone's trying to push an app onto me, to tell them this doesn't work in this way. And it's about what we teach. And maybe if that makes the world better teachers, it's not a bad thing.
No, I agree actually, and that's my takeaway as well. And actually to try it, because I've never really used it, well, as far as I know, really. I've never actively sought it out to use. So maybe I should give it a go rather than just being very suspicious of it, which is what I've always been.
Yeah, and then that way we know what works. I mean, Susan, you've broadened our minds. You can see that. You can see that, which is wonderful. That's why we love having you. Yes. We're going to hand it over to you now to give us our top tips, really about thinking critically and using everything that we have out there to our advantage rather than letting it use us.
Yeah, and I think that is the key. I mean, AI is there, it's been there for a long time, it is a reality. And so the key is embrace it, or at least experiment with it so you have an understanding of it, regardless of how much you're going to use it. But you have to do that with your brain, thinking critically. So for me, the key is choose a tool that you're going to use. Find a topic or subject that you know, that you already have a good knowledge and understanding of, and ask it questions, ask it to create something on the basis of that. Do some brainstorming or however you're going to play around with it. The key is, and then see what it produces. Review that based on your knowledge and understanding so you get a good understanding of how it feels and how it works. There are a number of different tools. Choose one or two to try and see which one would work best for you. So that's one key thing. Secondly, think of it as an assistant as you're using it. And if you have an assistant that is working with you, typically you're not going to just ask it to produce something, your human assistant, to produce something and say, that's it, and then present it to your clients, your customers, or the wider world, and how you do things. And then thirdly, I would say just think of language, think of approach, think of who you are and what you're trying to achieve, and make sure that that's always reflective in what you do, but also with other people. Recognizing that different other people are using it, take the time to reflect on what you see with other people communicating, engaging with you. Don't just look at things in black and white, but take the time to view at a more deeper level what they're presenting and ask questions if it doesn't align to your thinking or your knowledge of them.
Love that. Thank you so much. It's been such an enlightening
recording
today. Thank you. And let us know in the comments how you've been using AI. Have a healthy week.